Let's be honest, folks. There's no denying, in fact, I think it's pretty much accepted by everyone, that I am biased towards Dodge. Oh, what a revelation that is. Always have been, always will be, and I ain't ever gonna deny that. But one of the very few things that's more obvious to me being biased towards Dodge is PD, at least in Gran Turismo Sport, being biased against Dodge. And the most clear, obvious, and first to bring up example is for the Manufacturer's Cup. There's two of the same vehicle that ain't even in production anymore. What you pick to run for the Manufacturer's Cup. The Dodge Viper, sadly, isn't made anymore. You can take that as you may for how good or not it is. If ultimately it gives Dodge the money to make other things good, and it's obvious they have, I mean, the Dodge Demon exists. It just depends on your likings of if that's good or not. Sometimes it may not be financially possible to have both, so it might be a one or the other type thing. What would you rather want, the crazy fast, heavy muscle car, or the light, track record breaking supercar, whatever? That's not the point of this video. The main point of this video is to show that even though PD used to care a lot about Dodge, like even in the very first game, they added a Dodge Copperhead to it. I don't know of any other video game series to ever have the Dodge Copperhead in it, and Gran Turismo put it in their very first game. Now, the representation is mostly Vipers, the new-ish Hellcat, but there's the more wanted version out there that's still not there, and an old Challenger, when more people prefer the old Chargers more. So PD has the not newest version of what people want, the classic version, but not the preferred one, and the only version of the class that people actually race competitively in, having the vehicle that ain't in production. So, here's my case of why you should still be for Dodge. To an extent, this also extends to Polyphony Digital, but they're not watching. They don't care. Let's be honest. If they do end up caring and adding more Group 3 and 4 Dodges in the future, that would be incredible. They could do that with the Challenger and Charger and make it realistic because they have a lot of trim levels, like the Red Eye and the Scat Pack and stuff that are meant to be more track-oriented. There's a good reason to have a Group 3 and Group 4 Dodge, Charger, and Challenger. But even if they don't have that, just look at Dodge as a whole. I've already mentioned there's kind of two ways of looking at Dodge. The track record breaking supercar Viper, which the final generation, quote unquote, they'll probably bring it back because they have before, a Viper, essentially this one, but the ACR, has many track records, way more than I could go through in this video, and there's many websites and YouTubers that have gone over it way better than I ever could. But yes, that Viper has a lot of track records. And then the other side of Dodge being the big, heavy, fast muscle cars that have acceleration records. The Dodge Demon has the world record fastest accelerating car. Kind of. I think depending on how you word it, it does have the world record, so I'm going to word it that way. Because again, I'm biased towards Dodge, I'm not going to deny that. But the bias against Dodge is that that's all PD is representing. Because that's kind of all that PD's ever represented in themselves. Is Dodge, it seems like the stereotype is improve on what's already there and never change. If you think about it, up until now, that's what PD's done every game. And no one's really complained all that much. There's been various small complaints about GT5 and GT6 of like the standard cars and such. But overall, those games were quite well received. The first game that PD decides to metaphorically jump the shark, or literally jump, then burn it to the ground. They said that. They literally said burn it to the ground. It's still, to this day, one of my least liked quotes to ever be said, and I'm going to bring it up whenever I have a chance to. They literally said burn it to the ground, meaning they don't care about the old Gran Turismo series whatso cotton picking ever. They literally just burnt it to the ground. But I've done that rant many times before. PD would rather just burn everything they built up to this point to the ground. But Dodge will continue on. People stereotype they continue on in the same way. But look at all the innovations Dodge has done over the years, none of which PD is representing here. Dodge invented the minivan. Dodge created the K car, the other K car, the Dodge Aries K car, not the Suzuki Coffee K car. The one probably some people want to forget, or some people kind of have already forgot, whether they want to or not. Yeah, it's not the most memorable cars, and obviously the minivan is kind of the definition of forgettable. But there's no denying that made Dodge a whole heck of a heap of money, changing from what they were doing before. The big heavy muscle cars of the 70s changed into the Dodge Aries and the Chrysler Town and Country of the 80s and early 90s. Yeah, that doesn't look all that good on paper, does it? But it ultimately made Dodge viable. It made them be able to continue on. Up till the recession, when Dodge tried again with the big, heavy, fast muscle cars, with the Dodge Charger being 2006 and the Challenger coming out in 2008, sort of right when the recession started. And then, lo and behold, Dodge had PT Cruiser kind of coming to an end. That car has kind of mixed reviews, but then they tried stuff like the Dodge Nitro and the Dodge Avenger and the Dodge Dart. Like, the Dodge Dart was even a name from before, and even that. And that makes the PT Cruiser look like a darn good car to the general public. But y'all may be thinking at this point, how in any way, shape, or form is this being for Dodge? What I'm saying is that Dodge has its fair share of successes, like the Viper or the Charger, that's universally looked at as successes. Like Gran Turismo has GT1, the beginning of an era. GT4, some people consider the best racing game of all time. Dodge has its financial successes that are kind of forgotten by people, like the Dodge Aries and the Dodge Caravan, like PD's Tourist Trophy and Gran Turismo 6. All of those made money, but some people kind of forget about them. And then they have their just straight up failures. A lot of people, especially in just overall ratings, consider this game right here a failure. Supposedly it sold 8 million copies, but kind of hard to say. To an extent, that's kind of like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like one of my more favorite ideas, the Dodge Magnum SRT. A lot of horsepower. A lot of room to haul stuff. Sounds like an overall cool vehicle, didn't it? But, yeah, it didn't exactly fit with the times. But the thing with the Dodge Magnum is that It was sort of replaced by the Charger, but completely, because it was kind of sort of still made when the Charger is still being made. It's complete, then right after it came was the Dodge Challenger. The Dodge Challenger is yet one of those successes that are universally considered a success. The modern Dodge Challenger has the world record, like the acceleration thing. It has the sales. It's been around for over 10 years from now. And it has the general well-liking. People consider it one of the more stylish vehicles that can be bought. It keeps its retro styling, but in a modern way that doesn't look tacky. It's pretty much an overall universal success on all sides. Essentially, if GT Sport is the Dodge Magnum, some people see it as really cool. Some people see it as not necessarily a failure. Some people see it as a great idea. But ultimately, compared to a lot of other stuff they've done in the past, it's not exactly the dandiest success. What I'm saying is beyond GT Sport could very well be the Gran Turismo version of the Challenger. Bringing back the classic idea, just changing and modernizing it. What does that harken back to? The stereotype that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Just changing stuff and modernizing it and making it better. Well, at the beginning of the video, I painted that as a bad thing. PD's only representing that for Dodge. As a whole, what PD is representing for Dodge is what a lot of people represent PD as. But right now is proof that PD is not that. PD is not just changing stuff little by little and gradually improving it, but keeping it the same. PD has made Gran Turismo Sport. Dodge has made the Dodge Magnum. Dodge quit making the Dodge Magnum. PD's might very well quit making Gran Turismo Sport. Or go back to the number games. Dodge will go back to the Challenger. What I'm saying, you also go back to Dodge, is that ultimately, yes, the Viper ain't in production right now. But it's been proven the Viper will come back. It's been proven that Dodge will come back, both in monetary, meaning before and after the recession, and even in racing. Dodge has left and come back to sports like NASCAR before. Dodge will come back. We know this to be true. His Gran Turismo as a whole will come back. As biased as I am towards Dodge, if you're watching this video, I think it's fairly obvious that you're at least somewhat biased towards Gran Turismo. So I'm sure you want the Gran Turismo series to come back to its heyday as it was in the mid-2000s, especially just overall sales-wise and general ratings-wise. It's possible. It's not likely, but it can happen. Dodge has made it happen. Dodge still keeps a lot of the stereotypes in their actual brand. I mean, they don't exactly make anything like a Dodge Aries now, but, well, they still do have the minivans. They still do have, I guess, somewhat futuristic things, like the Chrysler brand, kind of, that some people are saying literally may end by like 2024 or so. And there's Fiat. Okay, I'm not going to talk about Fiat here. But what I'm saying is Dodge has kept some of their good innovational ideas going. But they keep some of the classics as well. PD could do the same. PD can keep mainly with the classics and then keep the occasional new idea that they could add along with the classics. They don't have to move completely to the new idea, it's just simply the new idea didn't work. And that's what I'm saying, you also still move to Dodge, because even as of now, PD's representation of Dodge is the old and same, the same that even failed. It's not the old same success. Sort of the old saying that's technically a failure. That's just it. The Viper technically failed. It's not made anymore, but it's almost a guarantee it's going to come back. So why not just go ahead and come back now? Oh wait, PD's balance of power on the Viper is so terrible it's not even viable to actually compete in the competition anymore. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. Holy Snikes. That's, yeah. As dramatic and having a point to it and all that as I just made this argument, PD just shoots it down by something as simple and straightforward. And no passing to it whatsoever, as they just make the Viper slow. The Viper's track record for Jiminy Cricket's sakes. That generation of Viper actually is track record. Well, one of the main differences, even though I tried to make a lot of similarities between Dodge and PD, is at least Dodge knows what they're doing to an extent. Obviously, there's its miscellaneous failures throughout the way, but Dodge overall is considered a still successful company. PD is looking more and more like they're not. Dodge will be around longer than Polyphony Digital, let's be real. It's gonna happen. Polyphony Digital, as of now, in their game, is making Dodge look like they're essentially not around anymore. There's not much we can do about that aspect, folks. PD's not putting in many new Dodges. The only things they are putting in is stuff that was in previous games. And they're making what is here not even able to compete. But if y'all want to support the future before the future's here, just go back to Dodge, because Dodge will still be there in the future. We know this to be a truism. It's been proven in the past. History repeats itself. But PD probably about to have history repeat itself in a bad way and have one of their failures yet again. Dodge, I know, has a whole heck of a heap of stereotypes. But overall, they've been around for over 100 years. And at this point, they're making a decent amount of revenue. Polyphony Digital, the only reason they're still around anymore is because they're having to partner with bigger, better companies that are still making a decent amount of revenue, like FI and Toyota and such like that. Why can't PD partner with Dodge? I don't know, but they're not. They're even seeming, if anything, to be hating on them. Which is annoying the holy shnikes out of me, but hopefully y'all can at least race with Dodge, and maybe that would give PD the hint that Dodge is still worth caring about. Because more people care about Dodge now than seem to be caring about PD. I'll say that for a fact, and given that I'm biased towards Dodge, but not necessarily PD. I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses anymore. To me, because Dodge is overall successful as a brand, that's still worth a yeehaw.